You literally, if you're managing a team in Europe, which I was at the time, I literally had to get on a plane. That's just how you did business back then. And my kids were really young. They were little toddlers at the time. And it just kind of broke me being away that much. So that's when I decided to get out and, love corporate America. Which is kind of funny because I remember my colleagues at the time, they were like, you'll be back. Once you get this out of your system, And for the next, probably 4 to 5 years, I will have colleagues take me out to lunch or dinner or something like that. Yeah. They're like, you ready to come back? Like, no, I'm not ready to come back, even though I was broke as hell.
Right.
Hey guys, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran.
And I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee, and we're super excited to have Dr. Tony Kelly on the show today. Tony, do you mind just giving us, are you from Oregon? What's your background? How did you get here? How did you get into real estate? I know you have a very interesting story, and we'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say thanks a lot for having me here. This is I'm looking forward to this.
It's a treat. Yeah.
So you're correct. I am not from Oregon originally. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan.
That's right.
So, and when I say Detroit, I mean the actual Detroit. A lot of people, they say, I'm from Detroit, and then they're like, I'm from Kalamazoo or, Upper Peninsula. I'm actually from
not
7 Mile,
Dearborn.
Not Dearborn. Even though if you say Dearborn, I will let you slide because that's pretty close.
Yeah. That's where I spent time in Detroit. When I went
that's
there.
right.
Amazing spot. So
no, I'm actually from the hood. So
okay.
I'm from 7 Mile in Wyoming.
7 Mile.
Yeah. So you've seen the movie 8 Mile,
yep.
I'm sure, with Eminem. So I'm from 1 mile away from there. So 8 Mile is actually the demarcation between the city and the suburbs.
Oh.
So.
Okay. So it's like the 8th mile of the city.
Right. So what it does, it goes. I know your listeners probably don't really care about this. You can edit it out if you want.
No, it's
but
interesting.
the mile markers. So a lot of people from Detroit always reference their mile markers, and it's how many miles from the river. And so it actually goes from south to north. Mm-hmm. So the river separates Detroit from Canada, and then you just go straight north, and that's the mile marker there.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
That makes sense.
So in other words, 7 Mile in the house.
So, but what brought you out here then?
Many stops, actually. So I graduated in, a long time ago. I want to give my age away here. But when I graduated from high school, I went to the Air Force Academy. So I was fortunate enough to get a congressional nomination and appointment to the Academy. And after graduating from the Academy, I was active duty Air Force. I served as a nuclear launch officer.
Nuclear launch officer, that means off submarines?
No, for the Air Force's
sorry, Air Force. Yeah.
Don't confuse me with those Navy guys. Yeah. But no, I was stationed in Grand Forks, North Dakota for 5 years up there. And it was a great experience. I mean, North Dakota I would say this, the people in North Dakota are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life.
I've heard that. I've heard there's not many, but they're super
nice.
Not
many, but when you got negative 72 outside, you get really close to negative 72.
Man, I thought Iowa was cold. That sounds terrible.
No. North Dakota says, hold my beer to Iowa. Anyway, I was fortunate enough while I was in the Air Force, they paid for me to go back to school and get my MBA. And then at the time when my enlistment...
so you get to still serve while you're... Okay.
Yep, absolutely. So it was one of the perks of being a nuclear launch officer is hey, this job is really difficult and stressful. We're going to go ahead and send you to school to get your graduate degree. So that was very fortuitous because then what happened is at the end of my
Sorry, I have to ask you about the nuclear launch officer. So that means you're the one that
I was the guy.
That you can press the button and it fires the missiles.
I was the guy.
Okay.
So fortunately, I never had to do my job. Otherwise,
hey, if of the people I know, if it was you responsible for those codes, I feel okay about that.
I appreciate that. And again, never had to do my job. Otherwise, you probably would have read about it in the paper at some point. So, no, it was a very stressful career, Phil. But
a mistake in that job is different than a mistake in our job.
There are no mistakes. There are zero mistakes.
I don't think it works that way.
No room for any type of errors there. So, in fact, I can actually tell you another story later on if we have time about how how draconian it is as far as enforcing those type of standards.
Well, it is interesting from a systems perspective, right? Because we use systems in our job too to avoid pitfalls and in real estate. So it is. I've always found that interesting how like pilots use their checklist to avoid mistakes in their careers as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We have 4 gigantic, probably like 6-inch binders. They were called TOs or technical orders, and so everything you do, you have to go down through these checklists. Every scenario that they're presenting to you in your standard evaluations and your testing, you got to go through these checklists.
So when you take a client through your process, I'm guessing you've got a checklist.
I'm pretty methodical. Yeah, if you haven't guessed, I'm kind of anal that way when it comes down to it. A little meticulous, but that kind of stems from between my academy experience and being an active duty Air Force. So.
Okay, so sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, you're good.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, so anyway, I was saying at the end of my commitment, Air Force Academy commitment, I was actually planning on staying in the Air Force. I love the Air Force. Didn't love North Dakota, but I certainly love being in the Air Force. But at the same time, this is during the dot-com boom of the early 90s.
Right.
And headhunters knew the different Service Academy graduates, Naval Academy, West Point, Air Force Academy, when our time was up. And then all of a sudden, you just get flooded with these phone calls and these letters from all these headhunters. And again, this is like pre-internet stuff too. Otherwise, it would have been like flooding my email. So, yeah, we didn't. This is a long time ago. So anyway, I took those calls just out of curiosity and, went on some interviews. And next thing you know, I got an offer. And they're offering me 3 times my captain's salary.
Oh, wow.
My wife is like, hey, this is an easy decision, honey.
And we don't have to live in North Dakota.
And we don't have to live in North Dakota.
Question about like the skill set from the academy going into corporate. Like what translates really well?
Well, I was an engineering undergrad.
Okay.
All Service Academy graduates major in engineering. So we all graduate for Bachelor of Science.
Okay.
Yeah. So between that and the MBA, and this, having a Service Academy on your resume, it was
plus the leadership role.
Yeah, it was kind of a hot ticket there. So anyway, I got out and I went to work for a company called Tektronix, which is here.
Yeah.
At the time, they were one of the largest employers in the state.
Right.
Still, and one of the dominant people or dominant companies in the industry, test and measurement industry. So the funny thing is, I remember, because I really didn't care. I didn't care for engineering. I mean, personality-wise, I'm not necessarily your typical like engineering type of guy. Mad respect for the engineer, so not throwing shade. So,
but why did you study? That's interesting. Though,
you don't have a choice. You're a bachelor.
Okay.
So anyway, I remember I was in a double E lab my senior year, and I'm using this Tektronix oscilloscope. And I remember turning to my lab partner and I'm going like, this is the last time I'll ever have to touch this freaking, and I probably didn't say freaking, piece of equipment in my entire life. And then roll forward 6 years, and you're like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm actually working for this company. So anyway, it was a great experience. But they moved us to... So I started off as an account manager, and I was responsible for starting up a brand new territory for their test measurement on the video communication side in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So didn't move that far from North Dakota. So we didn't get that far away from the weather. But so we lived in Minneapolis for 2 years, and while we were there, I did very well as far as establishing this new division for the company. And the competition, one of the competitors or big competitors, reached out to me. And they were, that particular company, they had a bunch of former tech people. In the test and measurement world, it's very incestuous. So everybody kind of knows everybody.
Yep.
And
only
the two,
so many competitors.
Exactly. There's
right?
only so many. And at that time, the two big ones, Tektronix was the biggest, and Hewlett-Packard, which eventually became Agilent. So another company, LaCroix, was always like that third-ranked company. They were very scrappy, though. So they flew me out to New York. There's like, hey, you're kind of kicking our butts here in these labs. We want to talk to you. So I was like, I have no desire to ever go work for this little company. It's like, I love being at one of the big companies there, right? Like it opened doors and labs and stuff like that. But I was like, I'll go ahead and I'll listen. So they fly me out to New York. They wine and dine me, limousine. I meet with the president.
Oh, man.
And
this is like in Manhattan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the last meeting of the day was literally with the president of the company. And he he was a former tech guy as well. So he said, what's it going to take to get you to come and work for us? So I literally just make up some pie in the sky stuff.
What number?
So it's like, wasn't just numbers. Like, I want to move to the Bay Area. I want to be in Silicon Valley where, the hot industry.
Yeah.
I want to be at ground zero. I want this moving package. I want stock options. And I'm saying stuff that is like absurd. It's like, I've only been in the industry 2 years and I'm like acting like I'm some big deal, right?
Yeah.
So he, without blinking, he literally goes, done.
Wow.
He takes the phone on his desk. They have phones on the desk back in the day.
Nice.
And he pushes it in my direction. He says, call your wife. And he sees his hesitation on my face. And he's like, hey, you're an Air Force Academy grad. I know you're a man of your word. So I'm like, oh, called me out. So I literally called the wife right there. It's like, hey, hon, we're moving to the Bay Area. She's like, wait, what? And my daughter was just born in January of that year in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So anyway, long story short, we move out to the Bay Area. And I was working in the managing a data storage sales team out there.
Wow, yeah.
Did very well in the labs there with this, this particular company. Always in the back of my mind going like, man, I could dominate if I have my old company behind me here. It's like I was getting in some of these doors working on projects. So sure enough, I get a call from my old company and they're like, hey, we'd like to take you out to lunch. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So it was they had a brand new vice president at that time of sales. And he takes me out to lunch. He's like, what's it going to take to get you back? And I was like, well, shoot, here we go. Do it again. Let's see if they match it. So sure enough, they accepted my terms, and I went back to Tektronix. They moved us down.
And they don't have like these killer non-compete clauses.
No, at least back then they didn't. Which and again, that industry, like it's so incestuous. Like you really couldn't do it. It's like people are constantly moving and flowing. Yeah. So. Anyway, so we moved down to San Diego, and I managed the wireless division down there, and I just had a phenomenal team down there. So we were literally ground zero so I'm looking for the audience here. I'm looking at my iPhone. So CDMA technology at the time was burgeoning, and it was the company Qualcomm that was really at the forefront of CDMA technology. We were one of their major suppliers for their test equipment, for radio test sets and things like that. So that was one of my major accounts for my team that we were managing. And that was just a great experience because you're literally in these labs and you see like what's going to be coming down the road in 5 years, in 10 years. So cool, yeah. It's like, oh, this is so cool. And we were just kicking butt down there. I just had a great team. Love San Diego, of course. Mm-hmm. So we were down there for a year, and I got the call we had another new vice president come into Tektronix. Don't worry, I'm not leaving the company yet. So we're in a sales retreat actually in Scottsdale, and he pulls me aside. He says, hey, we're having some trouble with our semiconductor team, which is really kind of the bread and butter is when it comes down to strategic accounts for tech at that time. So in other words, Intel account, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about making a move in the leadership there. Would you be interested? I'm like, heck yeah. I mean, that's the A standard now for, for sales teams here. So he's like, yeah, okay. He says, yeah, I'm going to do it. He says, I need you in Portland in 3 weeks.
Oh,
I was like, oh, okay, for a visit? I was like, no, I need you to move in 3 weeks. I was like, oh my gosh. So literally had to call the wife from Arizona and say, hey, honey, we're moving again. And at that time, she hadn't even set foot in Oregon. Never even visited Oregon. So that was
And you'd been?
I'd been, yeah, because I did my training and all that stuff here. I came here for meetings all the time. And she had never seen it though. So that was a tough call.
Well, quick check. How many moves was this in the last couple of years from North Dakota to Minneapolis to
San Diego?
Oh,
no, San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Then to San Diego.
All within how many years?
I think we moved like 5 times in 7 years or something like that.
Okay. How did the wife react?
My wife's a trooper, I got to say. So we just celebrated 41 years together on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so our first date was 41 years ago back in Detroit. So we're high school sweethearts. Wow. We went to high school together. And we first date we went to, for those from Detroit, we went to Greektown. We went to Nikki's Pizzeria in Greektown, and then we went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh my gosh!
That was we didn't because we were coming from Greektown. Otherwise we would have. But we did all the play acting,
right?
the participation. I mean, yeah, that was a blast. Anyway, so she's been with me, really every step of the way. And I got to say, having a spouse that was willing to roll with the punches, especially with 2 young kids, who were really just, barely toddlers at the time of all those moves. If I didn't have that, there's no way I would have been able to do that. But because at least at that time, because I was willing to pick up and move, I was like, yeah, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to take on these responsibilities. I'm willing to move to a different state we never lived in. I was able to get promoted pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because, I'll take on that risk. Let's do it.
Yeah, because other people probably turned down.
Oh, yeah. Especially, people who are just a little older than me who I was typically competing against for these positions. Their kids were in school or their wives, they lived someplace where the wife was from that, the family lived in that state or that city. Whereas we were fortunate in that, every place we moved, it wasn't Detroit. So we were away from family anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you're in Portland now.
So we came up to Portland, and I was managing that particular team, strategic sales team, and then eventually I moved into. I took over a marketing position. I managed the America's marketing group for them, and then I went over to sales operations, and I was a director of sales operations, and I had teams in different countries, and did a lot of travel. So, and that is how eventually, I call it my early midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And that is, I was doing about 60% travel, and this is before Zoom and stuff like that. So you literally, if you're managing a team in Europe, which I was at the time, I literally had to get on a plane. That's just how you did business back then. And my kids were really young. They were little toddlers at the time, and it just kind of broke me being away that much. So that's when I decided to get out and, love corporate America. Which is kind of funny because I remember my colleagues at the time, they're like, you'll be back. Once you get this out of your system, da-da-da. And for the next, probably 4 to 5 years, I will have colleagues take me out to lunch or dinner or something like that. Yeah. And like, you ready to come back? Like, no, I'm not ready to come back, even though I was broke as hell.
Right.
Yeah, can you talk about that transition, what that looked like? What did you have in your mind when you decided to leave? Did you have a plan?
I did, yeah. So I actually put together a business plan before I did it. And
MBA coming through?
There it was, exactly. So I put together a business plan, and I put together, really a SWOT analysis and looked at, what industry should I go into? And real estate was at the forefront because every place we lived in all those different moves, we always bought and sold homes. So I had some fantastic realtors, and I had some.
And you used the VA benefit?
Oh, yeah, that? Absolutely. Used my VA benefit. So I bought my first house in, let me see, I think it was December of 1991.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, North Dakota. It was $51,000.
It's probably like a 4,000 square foot house, too.
No, it wasn't quite. But it was, it was a nice, it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It was a townhouse, but it had a garage, upstairs, downstairs. I mean, it was a nice little place, and especially.
Did it appreciate at all?
It did. So we bought it for $51,000, and I tell this story to people, but the only reason I bought was because my mom, who passed away last summer unexpectedly, but she was really she just hammered home the path to wealth especially for people of color and for those of us who've traditionally been kind of denied those traditional paths. She's like, it's real estate. She says, we gotta own real estate. That is how you build generational wealth. And she didn't use the term generational wealth. This is back in the, we didn't have that terminology, but that's essentially what she meant.
Yep.
So when I get up to North Dakota, I was literally, I just penned on first lieutenant, and still not making much money or anything like that. So after, I don't even think I had pinned on first lieutenant. I was still a second lieutenant. That's right, because it was 91. So I was still a second lieutenant, really not making any money. I think I made $18,900 as a second lieutenant back then.
Geez.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I wonder what that is in today's dollars. I mean, maybe that's like maybe 40 or something.
It's probably about, 400,000 now. No, just kidding. Yeah, probably like 40 or something like that. So anyway, my mom was like, hey, you should buy a house. I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? It's like, first of all, I'm not old enough to buy a house. She was like, yeah, you are. She said, you got to use that VA loan. I was like, yeah, I'm not buying a house in North Dakota, Mom. Nobody buys homes in North Dakota. It's like, I'll just live on base like everybody else, or maybe I'll get an apartment with one of my, one of my buddies or something. And she was like, no, you're going to buy a house. So when she said it like that, it was like, I don't have a choice.
I guess I'm buying a house.
Yes, I'm buying a house. So I remember Libby came up from her trip because she's a couple of years younger than me. So she was still at the University of Denver at the time. And she's like, it's like, hey, honey, we're gonna do a house hunting trip. And that realtor that helped us with that house, we are still in contact with today.
Really?
Yeah, Ronnie Nelson. She was, when I decided to go into real estate, I literally modeled my business and how I would work with my clients after Ronnie.
Well, that's amazing. So how did you find her?
I think Libby did, actually. I think when she came up for the trip, I think she probably pulled out the Yellow Pages or something like that.
I mean, back then, right?
Back then, it was like, that was the Yellow, because we didn't have internet. So so Ronnie just kind of took us under her wing, and I remember, we told us like, hey, we don't know what the heck's going on here. She's like, I'm going to treat you like my own kid. And she took us around, and I remember there'd be houses that were like, oh, what about this one? And she's like, nope, not that one. So she was absolutely phenomenal. So anyway, I bought that first house for $51,000. And answering your question about appreciation, we sold that house in '95 for $75,000.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So for North Dakota,
that
was pretty good appreciation. And then we rolled that house into the house that we bought in Minneapolis. We rolled that equity into the house we bought in the Bay Area. And then we rolled that into the house we bought in San Diego, and then the house we bought up here.
So you kept buying, selling. You didn't keep any of these?
No, I wish we could have. I mean, we just, again,
especially the Bay Area.
Did I mention how much money I made back then? It wasn't like, no, it was, no, we couldn't afford it. So,
but it allowed you that platform to be able to keep, because like, it seems like you kept going into bigger and bigger markets.
We did. We got into bigger markets, and every house we bought, we were very fortunate. They all appreciated it. So, the house we live in, and, I tell people, it's like the house we live in Lake Oswego now, there's no way we'd be able to afford that house if it wasn't for that $51,000 house back in North Dakota.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So anyway, I decided to go into real estate because, one, I love Ronnie, and I just love how she worked with us. And this is going to sound incredibly arrogant. But coming from the tech career field where I had managed, international sales teams and operations teams and marketing groups, I looked at the industry and I felt like, hey, this is an industry I can hit the ground running very quickly and do well. And that panned out. So the other thing we did too was, my wife at the time, my wife's an educator. So she's currently assistant director of special ed for the Portland Public School District. So she started off, teaching special ed, and her undergrad's in science. She's a chemistry and biology major. So when we had kids, she's like, hey, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom until the kids are older, and then, I'll go back to work. And at the time, our kids were getting right about that stage where, they're about to go to school. And I say, hey, honey, I need like a competitive differentiator here in this market. I was like, let's be a husband and wife team. And I said, would you do this with me? Would you help me get the business off the ground? And she agreed. And she's like, I will do it for 5 years. And literally to the day, 5 years, she was out. She
couldn't get out faster, huh?
She could not get out fast enough. I mean, I remember coming home from work one day, or coming home from like a showing, and she was like, "Yep, got a job. Start next week." I was like, oh. So, but anyway, so she helped me get the business up and running. So at the end of our first,
well, so you both left your steady paying jobs and went into.
Well, she left being a stay-at-home mom.
Oh,
I left
that's right,
my position. I left my stock options. I left the comfort. I came from an industry where I built up a pretty good reputation, and just took this leap into a chasm.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, was it as easy as you thought with your game plan, or did you run into some hiccups?
no, this sounds really bad, but it actually was. So we started off.
I mean, going in with a plan always helps, I feel like.
Yeah. So the office that we joined, we started off at a RE/MAX office, and by the end of year one, we were number 3 in the office.
Wow. Okay.
So the business plan worked.
And
now that being said, we weren't making any money. It's like because what I did is, that's not true. We made money, but every penny I really just threw right back into the business because that was part of the game plan. At that time I was like, hey, we're just going to kind of, and we had the fortune of being able to, because I did, I did well when I was in corporate America. So I was able to kind of like...
You had some savings.
We had
a nest egg
savings,
that
exactly.
you could draw on.
And so it worked. And so I said for the first 2 years, like, I just want to pour everything back into the business and grow it.
Well, question for real estate. I mean, what were you spending on, like marketing or?
Yeah, it was marketing. And this is before Zillow. And so, we weren't even buying leads or anything. I was like, not saying that we wouldn't have if they were available. That just wasn't.
That wasn't a spend.
Didn't exist back then.
So this is more like branding and
It was. Yep, exactly. I remember, tons of open houses. It was postcards and mailers.
Oh, yeah, mailers.
It was starting off, we didn't have any listings, and so I would go around the office for those experienced agents. It's like, hey, would you allow me to advertise your listing for you? And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever you want. And so we used to have like these little magazines back then. These that were free, and I would just advertise
like a little like booklet.
Yeah,
they still have it like vacation.
Do they still have those?
Like
okay,
vacation areas.
Yeah. So back then they were really popular, and we advertised in like all of them. I would do like these full, 2-page spreads and stuff like that. So when I would go on an appointment, it looked like I was somebody who had some experience, even though I had zero experience. So anyway, it was just little things like that. It was letter writing and just constantly calling your sphere, and everywhere you went, you go to the supermarket, you start striking up conversation.
Yeah.
No, we didn't even do that, but yeah, probably would have, but yeah, no, we did everything. Okay. So anyway, it worked. I mean, we did really well that first year. So then after that first year, we got approached by someone who was starting a brand new Keller Williams market center. And so it was the first market center in Oregon. And I think it was probably like the second one in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, so this is really early on.
Yeah. This is 2004 at this point. So they brought us, and at that time, like nobody had ever heard of Keller Williams. I remember the big joke in the Portland metro area was Keller Who. It was like, that's what KW stood for, is Keller Who. So anyway, they brought us in. We agreed to meet with them, and they were going over. They were like, first of all, what do you want to do with your business? I was like, well, this is what I want to do. This is what my game plan is. I say, in 3 years I want this, 5 years this, 10 years this, blah 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 blah. And I remember Linda, she came back. She was the OP for the market center then. She came back with all these plans that KW had, and like, here's your plan for there. Here's your plan for here. And for me, being, business, technical guy, structured, systems, I loved it. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So she's like, hey, what do you think? I was like, I think this is fantastic. I think you guys are doing something that's revolutionary here. The millionaire next door is like, nobody had ever done anything like this in real estate before, building teams and, using leverage and having assistants. I mean, it was just a very new concept. So when she said, well, you guys ready to join us? I was like, no. It's like, I don't think so. I said, keep me in mind if you guys start another market center and you're looking for investors, give us a call. And 6 months later, she was like, yeah, we're starting another market center. Do you want in? We're like, absolutely. So my wife and I and two other people, we were the first people to start KW Portland Premier. We just celebrated, 21 years as a market center. Wow. And I'm the last original owner.
You've had that for 21 years?
21 years, yeah. And I'm the last original owner of that group. Yeah, everybody else, we bought out or retired and stuff like that. And so so that's how I got into real estate and how I got into ownership for a KW Market Center. So,
well, now you've stepped into some amazing leadership roles. Can you kind of talk about, you've been doing your business well for a long time, but can you talk about your transition into getting into leadership?
Yeah, good question. And it's interesting. I think it was rather fortuitous. And I was working on my doctorate at the time. And I remember I came across this one study I forget which class I was taking. I think it was a qualitative analysis class. And I was doing some research and I'm reading these peer-reviewed studies. And I came across this one stat that African-American home ownership or Black home ownership was at its lowest level since 1968. I was like, holy smokes.
And also why?
I was like, this is at the time, like the market is on fire, right? And it's been on fire for a long time. Even with the hiccup of the Great Recession, overall, it's been a really good market. And the fact that, Blacks are not participating in this, and me being a Black agent, and at the time, a successful Black agent in this particular market, I just felt this. It's almost like I just felt somebody saying, "Hey, I don't know if I can talk religion on here, but anyway, for me, I felt like God was telling me, it's like, hey, it's time for you to give back. This industry has been really good to you. You need to give back to the industry." And it started off with giving back to the industry. And I was like, what can I also do to really pave the way for generational wealth building among, minorities? So when I say it's fortuitous, it was that literally within a couple days of me coming across that article, and I hadn't even formulated a plan for how I was going to do that. It was just a thought I really do need to, pay it forward here. I get this call from Drew Coleman, and Drew, I think he was president or president-elect of the state at the time for Oregon Realtors. Okay. And he said, "Hey, Tone, it's time for you to get involved." And I had never talked to Drew like that before, but he and I kind of started off in the industry around the same time. I think he's maybe 1 or 2 years ahead of me, but I just, I always tracked Drew, and he was somebody that I always had a lot of respect for, and I just saw how he was really getting very involved in the governance. He had been PMAR president, and then, boom, he's on this track to be president of Oregon Realtors, and then I get this call, and he's like, "Hey, it's time for you to get involved." And I'm like, dude, your timing is perfect. You have no idea how perfect your timing is. So that's when I decided to get involved. So I actually started off at the PMAR level and volunteered to, it was the Master Circle at the time. So getting into leadership at the Master Circle, that got me on the radar for leadership in our board of directors position at PMAR, then eventually became PMAR president, and eventually became PMAR president again.
Do you want to talk about, just real quick, what PMAR is in case?
Yeah, so PMAR is the Portland Metropolitan Association of Realtors. Steven's wearing his swag here, PMAR swag. So the way the NAR works is that we have our national association, which is the National Association of Realtors, and then you have your state association. So you got your 50 state associations, and then underneath the state associations, you have all your local associations. And so here in Oregon, we have, I think it's 20. It was 22 when I started my presidency, and I think we're down to 20 because we had some consolidation that took place in the last 12 months, which is all good. We had some really, really tiny associations, and you're going to see this trend really, I would say, accelerating nationwide with some of these smaller associations. So anyway, you have the local association, and PMAR is the largest association in Oregon and really accounts for about half of the membership for Oregon Realtors statewide. So anyway, that's how I got involved. And when I say, I did it again, that was because I served almost a two-year term as president for PMAR, back to back. Just the president who was elected initially when I was supposed to be president-elect, she decided to retire from real estate. And so that was a good reason. In fact, she found an incredible position at PMAR, and she's just doing an amazing job over there. So anyway, served 2 years at PMAR, and then that also, I started volunteering at the state level, working on committees. My first committee was the Diversity Key Committee, and at the time it was the Diversity Committee, and working with Alex Van, and we were able, I was, part of the team that wrote up the proposal to make it a key committee. So in the distinguishing factors as a key committee, the chair of that committee gets to serve on the executive committee and leadership for the state. So help present that, and we got that passed. And so that was my first foray into statewide leadership at the committee level. And then I moved over to the Government Affairs Key Committee, which is our advocacy arm. Did that. I was vice chair for the Government Affairs Key Committee. I was supposed to take over as chair, but ran for president instead and successfully won. So then I became the president-elect, so I couldn't do the chair position there. Then, just like at PMAR, I moved into the presidency 11 months earlier than I was supposed to.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I just finished my 2025 presidency and officially started my 2026 presidency for the state level. So state president of Oregon Realtors for 2026.
I mean, do you think with these longer terms, it's given you a little bit more time to kind of implement what you've wanted?
You nailed it. You nailed it. It's and for each of the positions, because I knew I had a little more time than my predecessors, I've been really I set some really big goals because I knew I had a good chance of seeing them through. So we did some restructuring over at PMAR, very little, lower level things. But at the state level, 2025 was really dominated with putting together a brand new governance structure for like all of our chair positions. Actually, the entire leadership team. We restructured the leadership team, changed the roles, the makeup of the executive committee. We completely changed all the roles there, and we got that approved by the board of directors in November. So it was a heavy lift. It's actually the biggest restructure of the governance model and leadership model at the state level since the early '80s.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it was a heavy lift, and so a lot of time canvassing the state, giving town halls and going to board meetings or local association board meetings and meeting with people so we can sell that. And like I said, it's successfully passed, and now 2026 is the year that we actually get to see it through.
See the outcomes, yeah.
So back to your point, Stephen, it was, having gone through all that work, it is really cool to be able to work on the actual implementation of it in 2026,
and now everybody, all the
well, that is definitely
players.
True. I've traveled all over the state, and that is definitely, another benefit of doing a 2-year term is my goal is I'm hoping I can hit every single associations by the end of my term. Something that most presidents just don't have the luxury of doing. I've got some really small ones I got to hit. So.
I'm guessing way east, right?
Yeah, exactly, out east and way down south. But I've actually been to a few, getting out there. I think I've hit probably 10 so far. So, yeah, I should be able to, I'm hoping by the end of the year I'll be able to hit the other ones. Yeah, November and December are really busy. We call it the installation season.
Oh, yeah. Gala season.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody requests the president to come in for that. And, they were always surprised when I said yes. I was like, yeah, sure. all right, if I can make it, I'll make it. So I think I did. It was between myself and Colin Milan, who, if you don't know, Colin is he's from Ireland, but he's an Oregonian, lives down in the Ashland area. And he is going to be the first NAR president from the state of Oregon.
Oh, he's
in 2028. So he is
wow.
right now he's the current first vice president for NAR, which means that next year he'll be president-elect, and then the following year he'll be president of NAR. So the president in 2028 of our 1.5 million members is an Oregon boy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and it's the first time we've ever had an Oregon person as president. So.
I love it.
Yeah, he's put us on the map. But he really has. I can tell you some of the opportunities that I've had at the national level. So I serve, in addition to being state president, I serve as a federal political coordinator for NAR, and I also serve on the NAR Major Investors Council. So those are pretty select positions. And honestly, I don't know if it wasn't for Colin kind of paving the way for us Oregonians here, I don't think, it would still be dominated by, the Texas, the Floridas, the Illinois, those type of places. So California, of course, that goes without saying. 225,000 members compared to our 17,000. Yeah, their smallest local association is bigger than our state. So.
Now, you mentioned you were this all kind of came about when you were doing your doctorate. So let's just go back a little bit and talk about education. You've got this big real estate office. You're doing great. Why did you decide?
Why would I do something crazy
like that? I want to
like
go get a doctorate. Yeah.
Yes, very good question. So when my wife and I were still up in North Dakota, we were both working on our masters at the same time. So I was working on my MBA. She was working her master's in special ed. And at the time, we didn't have kids at the time. And we were like, wow, we kind of like this academic thing. Like when you're doing it, I don't know, when you're an undergrad, you just want to get it done.
Yep.
You don't love it. You don't like it. You just want to be done. You just want to be a real adult, out there. But when you get to do it by choice, I found that, and my wife and I found that we really enjoyed it. So we made a vow to each other back then. So this is back in 93, 94. We're like, hey, one day we should go back and get our doctorate degrees. So I was like,
I love that.
Yeah, we should do that. Now, fast forward, you got kids in the mix. We have two children. In fact, yesterday was my daughter's birthday. She just turned 29, and my son will be 31 in May.
Oh, wow.
But so kids get in the mix, and of course, all those plans that you have are just gone by the wayside. Yeah, you have no time. You don't have the bandwidth. But once we were empty nesters, and we've been empty nesters for a long time, because my wife is in education and she's in administrator, and she was on that administrator path, they paid for her to go back and get her doctorate. They're like, you need to get your doctorate if you want to continue on this path as an administrator. So it was her first year in grad school. And for those out there, your listening audience, if they've worked on a doctorate, they know exactly what I'm talking about. You come into it with this idea that, especially if you have a master's beforehand, you're like, it's just like a master's. And a master's, to be honest with you, is not that hard.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's like, it's like your 5th, 6th year of college.
Yeah.
So we both had this mindset. They're like, it's not going to be that hard. Dude, there's and this is an actual stat, but this is not a positive stat, but the suicide rate among doctoral students is highest among all the groups. It is one of the hardest things I've ever done, and one of the hardest things you'll do in life. It is a grind.
I mean, what makes it that much harder than your master's?
A lot of it is the workload.
Okay.
The workload is very, very intense, and I don't care what your doctorate's in. I don't care,
And do you think that it would have been easier for you if you were younger, or do you think
no?
Or do you think it just doesn't really matter?
It doesn't really matter. No, it's just really, really difficult, and you just feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And when you have I just remember, for a couple years, especially when I was just doing my coursework, so I did coursework for like 3 years, and then I had a year to work on my, you got more than a year. You got about 5 years working your dissertation.
Yeah.
And I did mine in a year. But when you're doing that coursework and you're constantly writing, 15, 20-page papers every single week for 3 years, it's a mental load that you're just not used to, right? So that was really tough. But anyway, at the end of her first year, I remember I was sitting on the couch. I actually remember I was sitting on the couch. She comes home from work, and she's about, then she's like getting ready to go to school. She got her doctorate at the University of Portland. So she comes home from work. She goes to school. She comes back from school, and it was just a weird day where like I just had a kind of a light day. And I hadn't left the couch from the time that she came home from work to the time she got back from class.
Yeah.
And then she goes, "Hey, hon, remember when we talked about getting our doctorates together?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, it's time for you to do that." She's like, "I'm miserable, and I need you to be miserable with me." So I was like, done.
Fair enough.
So anyway, I applied and got into George Fox's, where I got my doctorate.
You did, George Fox,
Great school. Really enjoyed it. I mean, that's not true. I didn't enjoy it. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I said, it was awful. So, but it was. That was why I did it. And it wasn't just to do it. I had always had in the back of my mind, I had talked about this, literally since, she and I were back in North Dakota. It's like, I would love to be a college professor one day. It's like, I just think I could really, but I want to do it when I can afford to do it.
Yeah,
because,
totally.
Especially, going into the different industries that I was in, I was like, I just couldn't take that kind of, pay cut.
Yeah.
So do it when I can afford to do it. And so, I'm just, I think this is what my 4th year. I've been an adjunct professor at George Fox University.
Okay. So you give lectures.
Yeah, I teach classes. In fact, I wrote last year, I got to write two courses from scratch that are being taught right now at George Fox. So
What was your dissertation on?
So my dissertation was, I did a phenomenological study of African-American women who've made partner within the top 200 corporate law firms.
What kind of study, sorry?
So it's a phenomenological study.
Can you explain that?
Yeah.
not for me, for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So essentially what you're doing is it's the phenomenological study is a qualitative study, and it's a methodology where you're truly trying to you're investigating the phenomenon of something. So hence phenomenology. So you're trying to get into the psyche of your test subjects or the people that you're interviewing, and you're trying to create these themes to answer a particular question. And you're versus like say a narrative or a traditional
trying to make
interview
it more
style.
quantitative.
You're doing something where you are asking them questions and you're trying to get information that they don't necessarily even know themselves.
Oh, interesting.
All right. So what I did is, at the time my daughter was in law school at the University of Michigan, top 8 in the nation, law schools.
Nice. Big time.
So she was University of Michigan. So she had done all the right things. So, she's mixed, so essentially she's black in American society. Yep. And she went to Oberlin College for undergrad, did really well there.
Oberlin, that's right.
Yeah, she went to Oberlin. Yeah. And then she applied to a bunch of different law schools. She got in every law school she applied to, chose Michigan. And I was like, okay, great. You're ticking the boxes here. Great undergrad, great. You went to a T14. The way law schools work is you have to. Well, you don't have to. If you want to go work for one of these top corporate law firms, then you want to graduate from one of the top 14 law schools. They call it the T14. Gotcha. So anyway, so that's why I mentioned number 8 because for all law school grads who went to a T14, they want you to give that number there. So. So when I was looking at my dissertation, I was like, I would like to do something that I can actually give to my daughter and say, hey, here's a blueprint, right? So when I was looking at how I wanted to do this, I was also studying a particular newer theoretical framework that really leaned into the positive aspects versus just the negative aspects. So what I did is it's called the appreciative inquiry. And I didn't actually end up using that, but that kind of sparked this this question for me of, okay, look, we only have so this is the crux of it. So at the end of the day, African American women or Black women make up, I'm going to guess a percentage. So you're looking at, these are the top corporate law firms in the nation. So when you think of like all your law shows on TV, you see them, they're working for these corporate firms, whatever. If they're not working, for the city or the state, they're driving the big fancy cars, they have the fancy houses, they make all the money. So those are like your top 200 corporate law firms. So it's called, the corporate law there, or those white shoe firms. Of the partnership ranks, what percentage do you think are African American women, Black women?
Can I guess under 1%?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be less than 1%. Is that?
That's you're dead on.
Yeah.
0.7.
Yeah.
At the time that I started my study, 0.7.
Wow.
So that got me thinking, well, okay, 0.7% of these women actually make up the partnership ranks, even though there's a pretty decent size number of these women who are graduating from these law schools, right?
Versus the number of people that are, okay,
versus, so then I said, I don't want to necessarily do a study on all the barriers and all the things that are keeping them from achieving that level. One, because when you're doing a dissertation, you have to look for what's called white space, something that like nobody else has done this.
Right.
Hence,
right.
it's an actual research study that you're doing, and because it gets published. I mean, I'm actually a published author now, right?
Yeah, people will reference your
and people do reference. And in fact, I track it every month. No, I do. I get
It's gotta be
updates.
so satisfying.
It is so cool. If you see the countries that I'll show you a stat of all the different countries that my dissertation gets downloaded into every month. But anyway. You don't want to do something that's already been, you can't do something that's already been done.
Right.
And I didn't want to do anything that was necessarily negative. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I was kind of being shaped by this whole appreciative inquiry thing. So I said, well, what was it about that 0.7% that allowed them to actually overcome those barriers and make partner in these law firms? So then I started looking, and nobody had done a study like that before.
Cool.
So that was the crux of it. So essentially, I boil it down, and when people ask, like, what was your dissertation? It's like, I did a study to find the secret sauce for Black women to make partner in corporate law firms.
And what was your conclusion?
Oh, God, that's another segment. I have to come back for that. Yeah, I would just say these are women who, they're very special. They always excelled. They always had this attitude, and it was, really reality. They had to be twice as good as their peers, their white peers. That was just reality. They had to be twice as good. Perseverance, resilience, they never gave up. They've always been top performers. They always overcame setbacks. They didn't let setbacks hold them back at all. And there's a bunch of other things, but those are some of the big ones there. So that was the dissertation that I did.
Oh,
love it.
Was a lot of this information from like personal interviews with them directly?
You have to. So with a phenomenological study, I actually had to do interviews with my subjects. And because again, you're asking a bunch of you're asking questions.
Fun.
Yeah,
it was great. The hardest part literally was just trying to find them.
I bet access was
really difficult. And the only reason, and shout out to my daughter, because it was her managing partner at her law firm who was able to line me up with these women, because she was very involved on a national committee for like their equivalent of NAR for the I think it was the American Bar Association. I think that she was doing this for. So and in fact, when I was looking for people to interview, I reached out to the American Bar Association and a bunch of other associations at the state, local, and national level, and asked. He's like, hey, this is what my proposed research is. Do you have some people or a list of people that I can contact? And they were like, well, no, we don't. But two, nobody's ever done a study like that. So would you be willing to share your research after it was done? I was like, yeah, okay, cool.
That's great.
So yeah, that was pretty encouraging. But then at the same time, I'm like, okay, we've had a legal system here for a long time and nobody's done this. Does that mean it can't be done? So, all these things that kind of go through your head once you get on that road for, when you choose your topic. But anyway, it was my daughter's managing partner at her law firm who's leveraged her connections to help me find, and these were people who weren't even in the same law firm, but they were people that she had encountered nationwide. But the other difficult piece is that you had to be really careful in these interviews, and I had to be really careful, coaxing them into doing it because they were very concerned about being identified because their numbers are so few that in the interview process, certain details about them would come up, even though we're masking their names and locations and law firms. They're like, hey, our numbers are so tight that I could be easily identified. In fact, I had somebody who went through the entire interview process with me. We did multiple sessions of interviews, and literally when I needed her to sign off on the permission, she's like, I can't do it. Just can't do it. So that was a bummer because she had some just great thematics, detail that I could have used. But overall, I still had enough people, which was great. And the women were just badasses.
Yeah.
These women were just straight badasses.
That's cool.
So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
And did you get to put your daughter in your bibliography then?
So she was one of the people that I thanked for sure. Yeah, and her managing partner, they were in the forward there for people that I thanked. But it was a lot of fun working on that dissertation. That's not true. It was awful. It was a lot of fun to interview the women for my phenomenological study, and then my theoretical framework for that, because you have to pick a theoretical framework as well, was self-determination theory. And so a lot of themes came out when it came down to, when you talk about that secret sauce, that really lined up with self-determination theory. So, yeah, I could talk about that forever now.
Well,
it's interesting to me.
Yeah, I was going to ask, now that you finished your doctorate, how is that shaping the next portion of your career, your life, et cetera, and your leadership?
Yeah, so my career has really taken a huge turn. It's more so because of my involvement in the governance structure. So, I used to have a pretty decent sized team. We used to do, good volume, consistently ranked as, one of the top teams in the Portland metro area. And when I went back to school to work on my doctorate, I knew I couldn't manage a 12-man team anymore. So I slowly let the team kind of, go away, through natural attrition. And as of I think this is going in my second year now as a solo agent for the first time.
Oh, I actually didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it was, I think it started in 24. I became a solo agent. And again, it was just a matter, I just couldn't manage
spread
the team
thin.
anymore.
You
I was
give them
spread.
The value
I couldn't do it.
They
I don't
deserve.
even know when you
right?
have time to show homes or do any of
My
that.
if you look at my calendar, it is incredibly time blocked. Like if it's not on the calendar, like when you reach out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to do this?" I had to look at the calendar before I committed to anything.
Yeah.
Then I said, "Send me a calendar invite."
Yeah.
I was like, that's how my life rolls right now.
Yeah.
So, especially with all the travel that I have to do. So anyway, my career has really changed as far as focus. I don't have the big team anymore. I don't do near the production that I did. But this is that true giving back stage, giving back to the industry. And I tell people this, once you get involved, it's hard to not be involved. And I especially at the governance level, on the advocacy side, I call it the matrix. You got the red pill and the blue pill, and once you take that pill, you cannot unsee all the matrix. That's how it was for me once I got involved on that side of the house, where I see every single day there's legislation at the national, state, and local level that is inimical to our industry. And as a realtor, I never knew anything about that. Your clients don't know anything about it. No. You go through life and you're like, hey, I'm a top producer, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and you don't realize that there are so many volunteers behind the scenes, your peers, who are fighting to allow you to continue to do that. Fighting legislation that would be harmful to our industry and harmful to our clients. It's just, I mean, even at the national level, because like I said, I serve as a federal political coordinator. And what that means is, so NAR has, for every congressperson, every congressional representative, and every senator, they are assigned one person from NAR who is their liaison. And so I have the fortune of working with freshman Congresswoman Janelle Bynum as her federal political coordinator. So I'm literally, I'm constantly in contact with her and her team. When I'm back in D.C., I go visit them. She just introduced some housing legislation or housing proposals at the national level just 2 days ago.
Oh, wow. What was that? And
actually, it was Friday, I think it was. So it's for tackling home affordability, of course, and she has some initiatives for first-time home buyers and essentially special grants for first-time home buyers that she's going to try to get passed at the national level.
For the federal level, wow.
So anyway, that's what, my goal as an FPC is to really be like that real estate team member for her. And that's what all of us FPCs nationwide try to do, because one thing about NAR is like we are truly the purple party. We are not blue. We are not red. We contribute equally to those particular candidates as long as they are pro housing, and that's all we're concerned about. So anyway, at the national level, though, when you see all the different legislation that gets proposed to roll back, like say the 30-year mortgage or mortgage interest deduction, just things that we take for granted, those things are literally being targeted all the time. And at the state level, here in Oregon, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. So that's a big deal. And once you see that fight, you can't walk. At least for me, I can't walk away from it.
Yeah, you can't walk blindly away.
I can't.
It might affect your business, the business of your peers.
Absolutely.
And then our clients, of course.
And our clients, at the end of the day, our clients. I mean, your average American, your average realtor doesn't even know this. How many countries in the world have a 30-year mortgage?
I think it's one.
It's just us?
2.
Oh, who else?
Us and Denmark.
Oh, Denmark does. Okay.
That's it.
That's right. I forgot Denmark does.
30. It's like that. Home ownership is a possibility because we have a 30-year mortgage. Imagine being in another country where you have like a 10-year mortgage or a 5-year mortgage, and that rate is constantly adjusting to the vagaries of the market.
Yep.
That you think that will have a negative impact on home ownership in this country? I mean, absolutely. So it's things like that where there's, you have parties or not parties like political parties, but you have entities that are trying to even roll that back, something that we just take for granted.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have friends in Canada who are agents, and I don't even know how they sell homes over there.
Exactly.
How do you afford it? You
Yeah.
just need $200,000 down and just have that at the ready.
Yep.
And then your rate's going to fluctuate.
And it's going to fluctuate. So all of a sudden, your mortgage rate goes up. Your mortgage payment goes up to $1,000 a month. That could be tough.
Yeah, I remember when I was back in college, or not back in college, but I was back for a college reunion and talking to one of my friends from Ecuador, and we were talking about home ownership, and he's like, it's just like, it's not something that we can just do.
No. And that's just it. It's not something that a lot of countries have they don't have that luxury of really even aspiring towards.
Right.
And we do here, but we got to protect it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we kind of think of that as like that's the way you do it. Like, how else would you do mortgages? But in actuality, that's not really the case.
It's not really the case. Exactly. Yeah.
So, we do have like a lot of realtors who will listen to the podcast, maybe those who haven't got involved yet. They're mainly focused on being, as you mentioned, top producers. But what encouragement could you give them to get into leadership, to, get more involved?
I would say find something that you're passionate about. So when we talk about getting involved on the volunteer side for governance or leadership, it's not just for, NAR level type of positions. It's also your affinity groups. One of the, I was very fortunate to be involved for the National Association of Real Estate Brokers and getting that our chapter up, running up here in Oregon. And I also serve so I currently still serve, I'm not on the board of directors for our NARAP chapter here anymore, but that led to me getting involved at the national level.
You're in the national level
so I
too.
serve on the Bylaws and Constitution Committee. Which is a really small committee, and it's a working committee.
Yeah.
It's
that's the one that does the meat.
it's a lot of work there. So, in fact, right now this year, our goal is we got a 2-year plan. We're reevaluating all the bylaws and the entire Constitution. So, which is a lot of work for an organization that really hasn't adjusted the Constitution since 1947.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's kind of how those things work. It's like
exactly.
nobody wants to touch
Nobody
those
wants to
things.
touch it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nobody wants to touch it. But I would say get involved with get involved with your local affinity groups, getting involved with the young professionals, the NAR level. In fact, that is definitely, I mean, you can speak to it even more than me, but if you want to find the leaders for tomorrow, I just look at the young professionals. Like that is the organization that your leaders from tomorrow are going to come from. So if you're a little younger, it's like, I mean, you can be any age and volunteer and participate, but I highly encourage those younger ones who are starting off in the industry to get involved with young professionals.
Yeah, no, I've been part of that group.
I know.
There's so many groups.
Yeah. But they, nationwide, they just kick butt.
Yeah.
They really do. It's like if you just look at the top leadership right now for NAR and you look at their background, so many of them started off at that level.
Yeah.
So, but get involved with your affinity groups. Get involved with ARIA, get involved with NAREP, get involved with NARAB, LGBTQ Plus Alliance, Women's Council. That is probably the most common stepping stone to getting involved at the local association and then the state and then the national level. But, why do it? If you care about this industry, you want to get involved. Because once the attack, once legislation passes on a nationwide level that starts rolling back some of the things that we take for granted, it's too late to get involved at that point.
Yeah, it's much harder to reverse.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit, just pivot here really quickly and talk about burnout because, you're deep in your career. You've had a lot of success, but you still seem to, be driving towards other things and, have a lot of energy. For folks that have been in real estate, 4 or 5 years that are kind of struggling with burnout and still trying to, produce well but also be involved in other things and feeling like it takes away their energy. How do you? I mean, I know there's that ebbs and flows, but how do you?
Well, you nailed it. It really does kind of ebb and flow. And this is why I said you got to do something you're passionate about. Find that passion. So real estate, if you're involved in real estate and you're doing the transactional side of it, and that's where you can really get burned out. Getting involved in something else can really help because it serves as that okay, this is kind of that energy spark that I need. It's something different. It's something that I care about. That has helped me prevent burnout for sure. I would say the other thing that really helps prevent burnout is do something outside of the industry. Just you got to have some type of hobby. So
what's your hobby? What's your hobby?
Oh my God, I got too many hobbies. So and my wife says that. So one of my hobbies that I've been doing for 31 years is I collect single malt scotch.
Oh yeah, that's right. I knew that.
And I teach scotch tasting classes a few times a year. That's definitely a hobby. I've been back to Scotland a few times, and I love single malt scotch, right? The other hobby that I have is I'm a runner.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so in fact...
What's your streak at?
March 17th, it'll be 20 years.
Oh,
20 years every day.
Every single day, not missed.
But I remember you saying that you're not even that high on the list.
No, I'm like 134 right now. So
wait, let me ask. You ever had just a bad sprained ankle?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, I just sprained my ankle. I was.
It's just a mile, Steven.
So we were playing. We were in an escape room in DC 2 weeks ago. So I'm in the 2020.
You sprained your ankle in an escape room?
I did. I'll tell you how. This is interesting. So I'm in the National Association of Realtors Leadership Academy. It's called NARLA. So we have here at the state level, we have our Leadership Academy. Yeah. There's a National Leadership Academy. And so anyway, 20 people get accepted every year to this NARLA Leadership Academy. So for one of our so we were out there for 2 weeks ago for our first session. and one of our fun activities at night was an escape room. And in one of the escape rooms, they had these lasers that are shooting across the room, and you had to like jump over the lasers or crawl under the lasers. So I jumped when I should have crawled, and the room is completely pitch dark, and I just twisted my ankle, and I was like, oh you gotta be kidding me. So then when we finished that, I just sat down, iced it, and I've sprained my ankles so many times because I'm also a trail runner. So as a trail runner, you're constantly twisting ankles. So I knew how to do it. I had my compression socks. I had, had my my Aleve. Next morning, still went out on a 6-mile run. So
6 miles.
Yeah. So I was fine. It was a recovery run, so I was a slow pace. So yes, I've had COVID 4 times, swine flu. I've had pneumonia twice. This is all during the streak. The pneumonia probably, so the swine flu turned into pneumonia.
Oh, God.
And that one I had to go back to the hospital like twice. That's where the closest I probably came to the streak ending, especially when the doctor was like, you can't run. And I was like, no, I won't run. I'll be fine. I was like, and then of course he's like, you're going to run out here. It's like, oh, of course I am. It was like, I just thought I'll tell you what you want to hear, but I'm going to run. In fact, yesterday, just a 10-mile training run.
Nice.
So, I got 12 on Sunday.
Wait, are you building towards a longer? Or what are you?
Yeah, so I'm actually doing not quite an ultra. I'm doing a 30K. Okay. So right at about 19 miles. I'm doing a 30K, the Gorge Waterfalls run. Which is phenomenal. And I've run the trail a couple of times because we like we have an RV and we like to camp over in that area there. So here's a funny story if we have time.
Yeah.
So we were there in the spring. So I did this one trail race, the mud, what's it, Hag Lake?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. So I did the Hag Lake mud run in February last year.
Worst race ever.
God. Dude, that was brutal. So anyway,
that broke me from running. I haven't run a single individual.
I can see.
Ultra since
put
then.
it this way, I didn't sign up again this year. That was a tough run. So anyway, I did that one, and I had also signed up for the 30K Gorge Falls, and after that Hag Lake run, I was done.
Yeah.
Like physically, I just could not recover in time to do that race in April. So I forgot about it, didn't think about it, and we decided to go camping. And it's like we were up in Ainsworth. So I go out for my morning run. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, hey, I'm going to do, I think I was running like 8 miles or something. And that's a very technical trail, like really technical trail. So you run from Ainsworth down to Monoma Falls and back, and that's right at about 8 miles for what I was doing. So I get up there, and I've done this trail a couple times, and I never, ever see people on the trail. I'm on this run for like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden I see like somebody in front of me.
The race day.
I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. That's weird. And that still wasn't dawning on me, right? So I'm looking around the corner. We go up this one hill, and I see around the corner, and all of a sudden I see like 5 or 6 people. Like, what the heck? Well, then all of a sudden I hear somebody say, oh, you're right. Like, so they're coming up from behind me. And again, this never happens. So now I look back and I see the tag, I see their race bib there. I was like, oh, this is the gorge. So I had also picked I was in the middle of this race, and this is for the 100-miler, which is a qualifier for Western States.
Yeah.
So in trail running world, you have like these 2 big races, UTMB and Western States, which are like the Masters and the U.S. Open or the British Open for golf. The Super Bowl, essentially. And I'm coming around this one fall, and I see like these 3 runners coming down, and they are like flying. They're running like a 5-minute mile on a trail.
Got it.
And I recognize them, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen these guys at UTMB. So these are like the pros who are like, they're coming back in the opposite direction. And then I see the camera crew behind them. Right. And I was like, I'm literally in the middle of this race right now. So anyway, I come back, and so you're running, and trail runners are all just like the friendliest, nicest people, all community. Support each other. So we're coming back, and I'm like right at the turnoff for getting back to my campsite, and I run down off the trail, and I just hear all these people in the trail going, "You're going the wrong way." I was like, no, I'm not in the race. They're like, "Oh, you're going the right way." So I get back to the RV, I go inside, I'm just super excited. I'm tired as heck. I'm like drained, and because I ran way faster than I was going to, because you got all these other people with you, right? And I tell my wife, like, "Got to turn on the TV." I was like, I was in the middle of this race. This race is going on right now. So I, pull up YouTube, and I'm watching the live, watching it live on YouTube. So anyway, it was pretty cool. And those 3 people that I saw at the front, they're literally, they made the podium, and they're sitting there, being interviewed and stuff. So anyway, that motivated me, because I was like, I think I'm going to do that race next year. And I said, especially if I skip the Hag Lake run, I can do that. So that's what I'm training for right now, is the 30K.
Cool. Love it.
I know that was way longer of an answer than you want. So
I love it.
No, it's good to to have things outside of, obviously, your own business and all the leadership that you have to do and all the events you have to go to. And your doctorate. I
got a lot going on. Yeah.
Speaking of that, like, what do you see in the next kind of coming 3-5 year period?
For me personally, I would like to do more things at the national level. Yeah, I would like to be more involved at the NAR level. So,
do you see a national president?
No, and I get asked that question, especially once I got into NARLA for the National Association of Realtors Leadership Academy, because a lot of the presidents, especially these presidents over the last, 10 years, are pretty much all NARLA grads. So it's almost like, hey, is that a prerequisite? It's like, no, not necessarily, but it certainly doesn't hurt. But once I got into the class, those questions really started popping up, like, hey, do you see yourself running? And the short answer is no, because I'll be 59 this year, and to the runway to become national president, it's like a 10 to 15 year runway.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a long, long way. So, prime example, like Colin, who's going to be president in 2028, he was state president for Oregon in 2015.
Oh.
So that was 10 years ago. And state president is how you get on that track. So you're not going to be national president unless you were state president. Yeah. And most people don't. I mean, it's hard to become state president, right? So here's a person who literally is going to be president of the national. He graduated from NARLA, I think, in 2017 or 2018. He was state president 15. I would have had to start 10 years ago, because nobody wants to elect a 75-year-old president for NARLA. It's like, nor should you. So no. But I would like to. I like to see how high I can get and still make a contribution.
Well, you're already making a great contribution at this point. So
thank you. I hope so. I hope so.
Well, if someone was looking to get a hold of you for business or for leadership advice or career advice, what is the best way they could get a hold of you?
It's really, can I give my telephone number?
Yep.
Yeah, reach me directly at 503-753-7300. And as long as it's not spam, I take your calls. Yeah, I love talking to people who are involved or interested in real estate, interested in getting involved in governance, interested in any of the affinity groups. Yeah, interested in getting your doctorate one day.
If you had to recommend for someone that's not sure what they wanted to study, what would you say to them?
At the undergrad level, I would literally just say, and this is probably not the most popular answer because everybody's going to say, do something in STEM. I would say if you're not STEM inclined, a liberal arts degree is probably the best degree that you can get because it teaches you how to learn and it teaches you critical thinking. And a lot of people just get so caught up in I'm not going to go to college because I don't know what I want to be. Well, most people when they go to college don't know what they want to be. And even if you say you know what you want to be when you're in college, that's probably not what you're going to be when you graduate from college.
100%.
And not only that, it's and here's the other thing. It's and this is going to sound crazy for somebody who's a college professor and with a doctorate. College is not for everybody. Find a skill If college is not your thing and you can do incredibly well and have a very, passionate career and make a great contribution back to society and to your family. So, but if you're going to go the college route, I would say a liberal arts degree is what I actually recommend. It teaches you how to write, or essentially communication.
Yep.
One of the biggest skills that employers are looking for that they're lacking is communication.
Yep.
So, long-winded answer again. Sorry.
No, thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
No, thank you.